We're calling the meeting of the Finance Committee to order on June 7th, 2017. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Cookson. Alderman Wilshire.
Here.
Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Clemmons. Alderman Karen.
Here.
Alderman Siegel, I am present. And Mayor Donchis.
I'm here.
We have a quorum.
Public comment is the first item, but there are no members of the public to speak. So we'll move on to communications.
Communications from Dan Coogan, Purchasing Manager, regarding NPD tire changer value $11,200. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Lappin's Garage in the amount of $11,200. Funds are available in Department 150, National Police Department, General Fund.
Any discussion?
I actually did have, I'm sorry.
Yes, Alderman Siegel.
I'm just bursting out here. There isn't anybody from the PD here, unfortunately, but the question I have is, why does NPD have their own tire changer? I know they go through a lot of tires, but you know, this is an example where we have a piece of equipment which clearly is useful across multiple departments, and yet we're going to have one here. And I'm sure the DPW has one, and I don't know who else, maybe the school department. I don't know. I talked to Assistant Chief Rhodes, and he says they do their tires at a commercial outlet. So I'll vote for this, but again, this is another example of consolidation, like separate sets of parts for F-150s in multiple departments.
So at least we can ask a question on this point.
I can ask him.
And bring it back to us next time?
Yes.
That would be great. All right, so the motion is to approve the contract. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a communication from Dan Coogan, Purchasing Manager, regarding replacement of raised access floor at the Fire Alarm Dispatch Center, 38 Lake Street, value $14,275. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Longden Company in the amount of $14,275. Source of funding is Department 152, Fire Emergency Services, Capital Improvements Fund.
And in the event that there are questions, Assistant Chief Rhodes from the Fire Department, National Fire Rescue is here. Alderman Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chief Rhodes. And I have given Chief Rhodes a little bit of a heads up, but not very much of a heads up of the issue that I'm going to have. So this is a raised floor. It's a data floor. Most data floors that are raised are not carpeted. So and for obvious reasons, because it's easier to access. So the question that I have for Chief Rhodes, and again, I'm sorry for the short notice of the issue, and I'm putting you in an unfair position, is why do we need to have these carpeted squares? Why don't we have a normal data floor, which is just not carpeted at all, which would be significantly cheaper?
Good evening, the committee. Thank you for taking this up tonight. So this floor is replacing the floor that was originally put in 1999. And at that time, I cannot tell you why it was spec'd out to be in there. I can tell you that this particular floor is static resistant, which I guess is very important because pretty much the entire communications division is all IT based now. It's all computers. It's industrial grade. As I say, this one held up for 18 years pretty well. But the biggest reason is for the acoustics in that room.
Because there are a lot of people talking on the phone, or?
Well, it gets pretty hectic in there, yes. Yeah. It's a pretty unique environment where they have to be listening to the radio. Multiple calls are going on at it simultaneously. The phone calls are coming in. They need to be able to communicate with each other. So anything that can help that process.
Alderman Siegel.
Thank you very much. Well, that makes sense. I appreciate it. I mean, you might say something like, well, put throw rugs around, but then the floor wouldn't be accessible. It would defeat the entire purpose. So that's fine. That's an acceptable answer.
If I may add a little, the timing is actually pretty good this year because the Citywide Communications Division, I believe it was 2 years ago, received approval and the bond to, I think it was with the last radio upgrade, and they have previously rebuilt the police dispatch center. They call it furniture. I think those of us in the room with a little age call it a console. But that is proceeding forward, so the timing is actually pretty good. So between the console and the flooring, we have another good 20 years ahead of us.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Communication from Dan Coogan, Purchasing Manager, regarding 2017 pavement preservation program, value $327,424. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Seal Coating Incorporated in the amount of $327,424. Funds are available in Department 161 Streets, General Fund, Paving, and Trust Fund, 54 Property Services, and Department 169 Wastewater, Sewer Structures, and Sewer Rehab.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A brief moment while I turn the page. Communication from Dan Coogan, Purchasing Manager, regarding polymer change order number 1, value $40,370. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and contingent upon Board of Public Works approval, authorize change order 1 to the purchase order with Polydyne Incorporated in the amount of $40,370. Source of funding is Department 169 Wastewater.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Communication from Dan Coogan, Purchasing Manager, regarding contract for wastewater facility water valve and yard hydrant installations, value $179,925. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract to William P. Davis Excavation in the amount of $179,925. Funds are available in Department 169 Wastewater.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes.
Communication from Dan Coogan, Purchasing Manager, regarding contract for wastewater facility HVAC upgrades, value $566,717. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Monadnock Building Company in the amount of $566,717. Source of funding is Department 169 Wastewater, AC, and Air Handling.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Communication from Dan Coogan, Purchasing Manager, regarding contract for wastewater facility energy audit. Motion. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Process Energy Services, LLC, in the amount of $22,800. Funds are available in Department 169 Wastewater, New Hampshire DES Energy Audit Grant.
Any discussion? Alderman Karen.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a question before that. These upgrades, are we catching up with the upgrades for the wastewater treatment plant? I know we've been giving out a lot of money for certain equipment, and it's very important to keep the wastewater treatment plant A1 condition, but I'm wondering, is this a continuation, or are we getting to the point where we might have a breather somewhere?
Well, I think there's a lot to be done in the
Okay.
wastewater system in general. Director Photo reports that the plant is really in better shape and is operating more effectively than really ever in the past.
Okay.
But, you know, there continue to be things at the treatment plant and throughout the system. So we expect expenditures for the plant to slow down a bit, but there's still the entire
Right. Okay.
sewer system, which needs a lot of work.
Right, that's another issue, but I appreciate that.
And we continue, you know, there continue to be EPA and DES issues. We're operating pursuant to a court order, or so-called consent decree, and there continue to be issues that they raise, and so they probably won't stop raising issues. And so we can expect, I think, that we will continue to work on this system regularly for quite some time.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Alderman Siegel.
Thank you. And just also for Alderman Karen, the digester is going to be cleaned. That's going to be a big job.
That's right.
That's huge. Wait till that comes up.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager regarding Headworks Upgrade Project Change Order 4, value $27,625. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and authorize change order 4 to the contract with T-Buck Construction Incorporated in the amount of $27,625. Source of funding is Department 169 Wastewater State Revolving Fund Loan Headworks Upgrade.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager regarding contract extension for single-stream recycling, value $249,925. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and authorize the contract extension with Casella Recycling LLC in the amount of $249,925. Funds are available in Department 168 Solid Waste.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager regarding FY18 contract extension for purchase of B5 biodiesel fuel for Nashua Transit, value $130,000. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and authorize the contract extension with East River Energy in the amount of $130,000. Source of funding is Department 186 Transportation FTA Grant.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have unfinished business, none. New business, none. Record of expenditures.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that the Finance Committee has complied with the city charter and ordinances pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period May 12, 2017 to June 2, 2017.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Public comment. I don't see any members of the public here. General discussion. Any members of the committee like to discuss anything? Alderman Wiltshire.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the meeting is adjourned at 7:14. Thank you.